but he'd used both of the Mech Knights that were available to make searches. And
hello and welcome back to round 9 of the Swiss portion of the European Championships 2018.
Yeah, there's only 2 more rounds, this round and the next, before we go to our cut to our top 64.
Yep. Did I just get the round number wrong? Is it round 10?
Yeah, it is actually round 10.
Okay, we're in round 10. Ignore me. It's been a long day already. we're not even part way there yet. We had quite some delays at the start of this round, so I think we're planning on skipping our portion of the coverage, but we will cover it all after the round. But very quickly, the 2 players who are playing, we have Antonio Fragnelli versus Severin...
Frank. I actually practiced it this round, and this is a round I didn't introduce them.
Okay. And it's True Draco versus...
Dinosaurs. Both sporting from Germany.
Yeah, so let's get straight over to Thomas Rose and Oliver Gurman for the live action.
Yeah, guys, you heard it. We did have some interceptions, and that's why we couldn't start. We do have the deck list ready. Something that you want to say about Dinosaur versus True Draco, it's favoring the Dinosaur player?
No, I'd actually think it might be favoring more the True Draco side of things. Typically, the Dinosaur player, I think he's playing a list with all the Shadow cards and the Shadow Fusions. He's aiming to activate his Shadow Fusion, sending monsters from deck to get maximum value. Really powerful play, but we know that the True Draco player is not going to be summoning any monsters from his extra deck, so you won't be able to get that bonus on the Shadow Fusion.
So that's going to be interesting to see out. We're going to confirm that with the lists in just a second. We don't want to fall behind the main event even further, and that's why we take you to the feature match table and get the game on. All right, so here we have them. Severin on the left, Antonio Fragnelli on the right. Both of these guys exchanged some pleasantries prior to the match, and I walked up to them and I told Severin, I'm super sorry, but there's some issues with your deck list. Of course, the player, his initial response is like, oh my god, what did I do wrong? And I'm like, yeah, you didn't do anything wrong. It's just missing in action. Hopefully in action. I'm not sure if it is in action. Might be chilling in the hotel somewhere. Either way, we're missing it. So he had to write a new deck list. But now we got a pretty well-written deck list. We got something out of it.
Yep.
And we can bring you this match.
Yeah, and interestingly, I think the introduction that I just gave there for the match, completely wrong. He's not even playing the Shadows.
Ooh.
He's just on pure Dinosaurs here.
So, well, that makes for a more interesting deck, interesting match. Both.
Potentially, yeah. He's not going to be stuck with any of the cards that wouldn't be able to be used for full potential.
Well, maybe he was playing around that. He was like, maybe if I'm going to be in the feature match in round number 10, and my opponent is going to be playing True Draco, I don't want to lose because I have those Shadow cards, so I'm just going to cut them preemptively and end up with a perfect record, almost perfect record.
Yeah, so these players both currently with 7 wins and 2 losses heading into round 10. Neither of them can really afford to lose again here.
Yeah, I mean, in theory, they still could make the cut. There's a lot of could and maybes in that sentence. You don't want to rely on your tiebreaker.
No, certainly not.
Let's just put it that way. You don't want to rely on your tiebreaker. You want to be in there just because of the number of wins you have, and not worry about whether you're going to make the cut or not.
Yeah, obviously any player that ends the Swiss portion on 9 wins, 2 losses, absolute lock for top cut here. But if you're below that, things start getting a little bit iffy.
Absolutely. So Antonio Fragnelli is able to kick things off. He played 4 out of the 5 cards in his opening hand with Pot of Duality, adding, I think I missed it. I think it was the Disciples of True Draco, of the True Draco Kings. Either way, it didn't look like the most like crushing openings we've seen this weekend.
No, nothing really going on here. We know from what we've seen that Antonio doesn't have any real interaction here. The 1 card left in his hand is a Mano Awato, so even if he gets that True Draco Apocalypse, the best he can do is using the effect to change the attack and defense of monsters on the opponent's side of the field. It only really starts to get interesting if you can send those traps to the graveyard on your opponent's turn.
Right.
So Severin here, he can sort of play unhindered. We saw a little bit of interesting technical play there from Antonio. He chooses not to activate the effect of his Dynamite Knight on the first activation for fear of Psyframe Gear Gamma. Instead, he waits until there's a monster on the opponent's side of the field and then chooses to set
Again,
Apocalypse directly to his
it's
side.
little things that
Yeah.
can make a very big difference in these tournaments. They go a very long way, those decisions. And so who would you be saying is in an advantageous position right now?
It looks like Severin's got everything in his side at the moment. He's got cards in hand ready to play. Antonio may at this point choose to interrupt that Lost World. He could send the Disciples from his field to the graveyard and take out the face-up Lost World by using that effect to modify the attack and defense of Megalo Smasher X.
Yesterday we talked about field spells and basically said that the new tier 1 field spells, they get you a surge or something, like a light stage, and on top of that they do something else. Where would you rank Lost World? Is it one of the tier 1 field spells, or would you say it's a bit more specific, it's only in a certain niche?
Lost World is definitely a much more of a niche card in that it doesn't directly take any cards out of your deck. If you have it in combination, as we see here, with a Soul Eating Oviraptor, the advantage that it generates can be huge, but by itself, it doesn't do anything in the same way that, say, Trickstar Light Stage would do.
Or Union Hanger was the other example you came up with yesterday.
Yeah, and Spiral Resort as well.
Right.
Every turn gets you a search.
So a bit more specific, that card, but in this deck, with the right combinations, powerful nonetheless.
Yes. Antonio with the set Waterfall of Dragon Souls, just considering if he wants to try and interrupt these dinosaur plays. Can we check the text of Lost World to see if that token is able to be tributed?
Yes. You can special summon 1 Euro Egg token to your opponent's field and defense position, full stop. There's
no limitations. Okay.
While your opponent controls a token, they cannot target monsters on the field with card effects, except tokens. That doesn't really matter. Once per turn, if a normal monster on the field would be destroyed. No. Nothing of the kind on that card text. Are these tokens in the times of Link monsters as strong as they used to be?
They certainly take a big hit. If your opponent is playing the most popular deck, currently the Trickstar Skytracker deck, they will have Link Spider. They can instantly get rid of it. But just putting it onto the field for one moment and having it sit there and enable you to use your Oviraptor effect to get every summon that you need, you're already in the place that you need to be at this point.
Look at that. It's a Black Rose Dragon. For those guys that don't know the card, it's better than an evenly match because you're not even giving up your battle phase for the turn. And we haven't seen that card in a while.
No, and Severin here using it to really great effect.
Yeah, great advantage. Just wipes the entire board. This sounds like a very even effect, basically, because both players are losing their cards. But if you are the one pulling the trigger, then you can be way ahead. And after this, Antonio Fragnelli is just left with Amano Iwato in his hand.
Yes, with Severin saving that Ash Blossom in hand to prevent the resolution of Waterfall of Dragon Souls, he's really taking control of the match. And Antonio, unless he can top deck something like a Card of Demise here, is going to be out of the game before it's even really got off the ground.
And just look at that card. If that's not a scene straight from the anime, I don't know what is. A 3,500 attack monster entering play after everything else just left play, going in there, and just suddenly Antonio Fragnelli
has no plays.
4,500 is like, what? That's just one attack? Woof. That's a big swing. That's as big as it gets. And Antonio did draw into Ignis Heat, but all on its own, not that much use.
Not going to do anything. The position here for Antonio is just getting worse and worse.
Yeah, the extinction clock has been set.
Yep.
From Severin, and now he's got Gold Sarcophagus. He's got...
If Severin has one more copy of Giant Rex in his deck, he'll be able to summon an Evolzar. Unfortunately not. He opened with 2 copies, and I think, yes, he only has 2 Giant Rex in the entire deck, so he is prevented from ending on that Evolzar Lagia that he would have really liked to get to.
And what do you make of the decision of picking Monster Reborn for his target for the Gold Sarcophagus just now?
I think it's a really strong choice. The game is unlikely to go that long, but if it does, you want a card that can just be played by itself to get you back in.
Right. So the Dinosaurs are stomping the true Dracos, a deck that is known for its heavy hitters, for the gigantic monsters that they place on the field, and the Dinosaurs say, that's no match for us.
You can one-up it.
Yeah, exactly. We're just going to chomp right through it. With that, Severin Frank, first duel won, and we're looking at the side decks of both of these guys. First card, Ghost Reaper, Winter Cherries, for both of them on the side decks.
Unlikely to see that coming in here.
Yeah, exactly. And then we see a couple of cards, Winged Dragon of Ra. I'm looking at Antonio's deck list here. We have the Heavy Storm Duster, Winged Dragon of Ra, Emergency Provisions. Not going to come into effect if we look at the clock so far. Mind Crush, Dimensional Fissure, Sophion,
The Time Lord?
The Time Lord, yep. And Anti-Spell Fragrance.
I think the Dimensional Fissure, very likely to see that come in here.
Yeah.
The Dinosaur player uses a lot of effects in the graveyard. Possibly also the Mind Crush, if we're expecting to see a lot of searches. There could be searches for Double Evolution Pill. Hitting that from the hand is very powerful. I'm still expecting that the True Draco player is going to choose first again. And
does he have any cards that immediately go out of the main deck, where he's like, because like something like a Mind Crush, it could be good, but it doesn't necessarily need to be absolutely game deciding. Are there cards where you're like, okay, this is definitely going to come out? I mean, Rivalry of Warlords,
yeah.
It's not a good card.
That
man.
immediately leaps out to me as being not the strongest choice to have against a deck that's almost entirely Dinosaurs.
Yeah. Skill Drain, I'm not sure. Is that good against the Dinosaurs?
Skill Drain is another one where you can only really sit on a Skill Drain and feel happy when you're playing the biggest monsters in the game. And 3,500 is even bigger than the True Dracos.
that monster. Right. So there are a couple of cards that might not make the card for the second duel. Let's look at Severin Frank's deck list. We mentioned it goes over Winter Cherries. This is Kaiju Slumber. This is the Kaiju, another Kaiju, Gamisil, and Kumongos. Yet another Kaiju, Dogoran.
Dogoran, the Mad Flame Kaiju.
Yep.
He's particularly good in the Dinosaur deck because he himself is a dinosaur. So when you normal summon Oviraptor, you have the ability to search for a Kaiju if that's more important to you than the other options that you typically have with sending the Overtex or searching another combo piece.
It's great to have that flexibility because we know that Kaijus can be game deciding, and making them searchable is just so much bigger. Cosmic Cyclone.
And a third copy of Twin Twister, all in the side deck. Those are going to be very big in this matchup.
And interestingly enough, Severin Frank is also playing Rivalry of Warlords in his side deck. He's not going to side them.
We won't be seeing those.
Yeah. All right, so both of these guys are in a similar position with a lot of side deck cards that are good against other decks, not particularly in this matchup.
Well, yeah, both of these decks certainly can be considered rogue, so they won't have been preparing for this matchup. And in a matchup like this, where you see two rogue players going up against each other, it's often going to be the deck that is most dissimilar from the top deck that prevails.
Right. Which one would it be? I'm guessing the Dinosaurs?
Potentially, yes, given that they're more reliant on just summoning big beatsticks from the main deck, but that could also be said of the True Draco player.
Yeah.
And when it comes to a powerhouse match of two just big heavy hitters, it's often the higher attack stat that will end up winning the game, which really isn't something that you hear a lot right now.
No, it's definitely not. It doesn't sound like Yu-Gi-Oh! In 2018. So Antonio Fragnelli is kicking things off for the second duel with a Pot of Desires, gets rid of 10 cards, however, doesn't get to draw any cards thanks to that Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring coming down from Severin Frank's hand. We can bring up the other cards in his hand. That's it for interruptions. The rest is set up for his own turn.
Antonio Fragnelli here put in a really awkward position. He's able to set that skill drain and tribute it for Ignis Heat, which would enable him to use Card of Demise, drawing one card, but instead he wants to save that resource in his hand and hope that the skill drain will carry him through.
But didn't we say that skill drain is not that good against the Dinosaurs?
It depends on what opening pieces Severin is forced to use here. We'll see the Fossil Dig for Isolating Oviraptor, and negating that effect is effectively going to end the turn and pass back to Antonio.
Okay, so skill drain can be good against Dinosaurs. It's the takeaway here.
That was not the play I was expecting. He's instead searched for a Miscellaneousaurus. I think he picked up the Oviraptor for turn.
Yeah, exactly, he did.
So he'll be able to chain that Miscellaneousaurus here if he wants to force through the resolution of his Soul Eating Oviraptor effect.
And that's Did he see that skill drain coming, or is it just like the general play that you go for?
It's certainly the general safe option.
No, he's not going for
But
it.
he decides that he would rather save his Miscellaneousaurus, just keep the pieces in hand. Maybe it will be more use next turn.
I also think that Severin Frank is one of those guys that really does not mind his opponent doing his dirty work for him and reducing his own life points. Because those dinosaurs, sometimes it's not enough for 8,000, but you can just attack over some opponent's monsters, dish out a lot of damage, and that's going to be enough.
Yeah, the dinosaur monsters do most damage when your
Ooh.
opponent has a big board.
The third copy of Ignis Heat.
That's a painful draw for Antonio. Now, at best, he will be able to draw one card with the Card of Demise.
Wow, that's rough. I don't even have another word for this.
It looks like this match is going to be over in 15 minutes.
Yeah, that could be the case. So first we had that situation, and he's forced to play the Card of Demise.
Drawing
I mean,
just one card.
You cannot be very unhappy when you're the opponent. Somebody's like Card of Demise, and you're like, for one card, okay, go for it.
He draws Storming Mirror Force. That's not a card that we've seen a lot of.
It isn't, indeed. It's a good card because especially if your opponent doesn't see it coming.
Yes, and it's one of very few ways to beat an extra link Go keyboard. If you
Right.
can bait out the effect of Trigate Wizard, you can then use your Storming Mirror Force and just return their entire board to the extra deck.
Right. And he's only playing one copy of it, so I think it's one of those cards where he's like, this could be the silver bullet if it comes at the right time. It's not a card that he's like, I need to play 3 of because it's always going to be good. It's just that special situation that could
There are a
come
real
up.
huge number of one-off cards for Antonio. He plays the 1 Imperial Order, 1 Skill Drain, 1 Lose 1 Turn, 1 Anti-Spell Fragrance in the main deck, 1 Solemn Judgment, 1 Storming Mirror Force,
I'm just
1
imagining.
Rivalry, 1 Waterfall of Dragon Souls, 1 Solemn Strike, and there's another card I don't quite know the name of in German.
The True King, Return of the True King.
Ah, yes, of
Yeah.
course. That's the
Just imagine,
definite inclusion.
just imagine there's like a group of players playing together, like 4 or 5 guys, and the first guy is he's going up against Antonio Fragnelli, and then he's returning to his friends. He's like, oh my god, this guy, he plays Skill Drain and Imperial Order, and they're like, oh my god, okay, what's he playing? Yeah, he's playing True Draco. Next guy goes up to him. He's prepared for Skill Drain, Imperial Order, and suddenly he loses to Anti-Spell Fragrance, or maybe Solemn Judgment, or maybe Storming Mirror Force. Coming back to his friends, they're like, oh my god, this guy is so good. He's got so many silver bullets in his deck. Next guy comes up, he's like, okay, I'm prepared. I got this. I know he's got a Mirror Force, I know he's got Imperial Order and everything else. And suddenly there's a rivalry of warlords, and he's like, okay, I have no chance to win this. He's just going to single-handedly depress an entire group of people with this deck.
Yeah, Antonio also only playing a single copy of the Pot of Desires and the Terraforming.
Yeah.
Perhaps he's getting ready in preparation for the World's format, where in Japan he knows that he's only allowed to play 1 Terraforming, and he just wants to get his head in the game ready for
I don't know.
if he qualifies.
Or maybe it's a decision that he learned that side taking can be really hard, but if you have all of those one-offs, there's always a couple of them that is not especially good against the deck you're going up against, so you're like, okay, side taking is easy for me now. I can just take out the Storming Mirror Force against this deck, the Rivalry of Warlords against the other, and so on.
Yeah, it certainly feels like there's some strong deck choices behind it in playing a lot of one-offs in True Draco. If you end up with drawing 3 cards with your Card of Demise, that's a much better play if you have different back rows to set. Often if you have duplicates, it's as if you have 1 fewer card.
Right. So, despite Antonio Fragnelli not having a very strong draw so far, might change now with that Pot of Duality, it doesn't seem like Severin Frank is able to put the pressure on him.
No, things have been playing very slowly.
Unexpectedly so, with both of these decks having those heavy hitters. And that first game, that also didn't take very long.
I think we actually saw Baby Cerosaurus attempting to attack over the Jura Egg token and hitting the Storming Mirror Force.
Oh, okay, right.
I'm sure that's not the board that Antonio was planning to use that Storming Mirror Force on.
But a second Card of Demise picked up after that Pot of Duality, now able to refill Antonio Fragnelli's hand, and that looks like it's almost going to get him back into that game.
Yeah, a game that seemed like it was sealed so early on is now wide open again.
So here is the Soul Terraforming. He just draws them at the right time. That's the strategy here. And he needs to empty his hand after that card of demise, right?
Yes, I don't know if he's going to be able to, though. I'm not sure which of his normal summons he's taken already this turn. He may have access to the Metaltron.
No, he just drew for his turn, and the first thing he did was Pot of Duality, and now the card of demise. So I think he still has his normal summon.
So he would be able to normal summon the Amano Owato and the Metaltron using the effect of that True Draco Disciples already face up.
This is quite an entertaining match, especially after you soured the mood prior to the match and you said, I think this is going to go very one-sided with those Shadell cards.
Oh no, I think Antonio might have just made a huge mistake there. He attempts to use the Dragonic Diagram on the Jurag token, not realizing that with the Lost World already in play, it's just going to be triggering more and more effects for Severin, and failing to destroy that token, he's not even going to be able to resolve the search.
Oof. So he just he lost the card and the advantage, all thanks to the element of surprise from the dinosaurs, really. I mean, that Lost World, it's not exactly hidden, but it's something that you can quickly forget about.
Yeah, I feel like Antonio was in a real commanding position to take control with Metaltron. It seems that the search is still resolved. I wasn't sure if you were able to search if you failed to destroy a card.
That is...
Can we bring up the text on Dragonic Diagram?
Yeah, let's bring that up for you guys as well. Here's the card, in case you haven't seen it in a while. For the first time each... This is not the relevant part. Once per turn, you can destroy one other card you control or in your hand, and if you do...
I'm not sure if he should have been able to search there.
Did he just get a new token after the token was destroyed? Is that what Lost World did there?
I don't know for certain. So he's used the effect to prevent the destruction, and I'm not sure if he should have been able to search for that True Draco Heritage.
Yeah. I think the judge is actually... Yeah. Luke is actually... I was just looking at the chat, and Luke was already... no search from Dying. He didn't search, is what... Ignis effect is the card that did the...
Oh, so the Ignis got the heritage rather than the diagram.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, okay, good to know. And bit confusing sometimes. Again, those card interactions. We have a hashtag Toyn is a boss in our chat. This is the little things that make us smile. Toyn is our table judge for the weekend, and so far, I think he's been like perfect control of all the matches, really.
Yeah, he's been very good for us, and I think he's been very fair playing with the ruling disputes that have come up on the table.
Yeah,
there hasn't been anything that I felt has gone wrong. There have been a few things that I've thought was a mistake and then turned out not to be mistakes.
Yeah.
So.
Right, so hashtag Toyn is a boss. And there's the question again, what are the records of these guys? They are both sitting on
7-2.
7-2, yeah. Just confirming again. I can also look at the standings prior to the round and maybe provide some more perspective. Severin Frank is currently on 48th place. So if he wins this, his tiebreakers might carry him there. He's 48th prior to the round. If he wins this, he's even with a loss in the last round, he could very well advance to the top card here. Mr. Fragnelli on the other side. He is 75th. So his tiebreakers aren't as good as Severin Frank's tiebreakers. So Antonio Fragnelli really needs that victory right now to increase his chances of making the top cut.
Yes, and to have any chance of winning the match, he needs to win this game first.
Yes, absolutely. And it just looked like the comeback time with that card of demise after a Pot of Duality. It's also a nice combo. Gets you through the deck really quickly and gets you to draw a few more cards. He's now got a hand. No, his hand isn't refilled, of course. Card of demise. He's got a lot of cards on the table now, whereas Severin Frank still has a couple of options in his hand.
Yes, so Antonio, not many cards on the table, but one of the few that he does, the Metaltron 12, the true Drake combatant, is an absolute powerhouse. If we just bring that up and have a look at the effect. So this was a card that didn't see much play whilst we still had Masterpiece, but with the loss of Masterpiece, it's really taken a big step up and become what a lot of people are going to instead.
It's basically similar to the True Draco, to the other True Draco cards, of course, in that you can tribute summon it by using continuous spell or trap cards. It's unaffected of cards with the same card type as the original card type of the card's tribute for its
So
tribute
that's
summon.
much like Masterpiece?
Pretty much the same. If it is destroyed by an opponent's card by battle or card effect, you can special summon one fusion, synchro, or exceed monster that is earth, water, fire, or wind from your extra deck. What's the usual suspects for that effect?
You have cards like the Last Warrior from Another Planet, who's a big earth fusion monster, or Nachiria Exterio. Unfortunately, you don't have access to the favorite from Waking the Dragon, which is the Raid Raptor Ultimate Falcon, because he is, of course, dark. But there's still some big hitters in there.
Okay. It basically replaces itself. That's what very often makes a good card. So now the dinosaurs are in defense position. We don't see that very often.
They're forced into defense by the effect of lose one turn on the other side of the field.
That's a good explanation why they are in defense.
So we're going to have to see some link plays to fight through that lose one turn. Obviously, we know link monsters cannot be placed into defense position. And the Decode Talker there comes out with exactly the same attack points as that Metaltron 12. Unless, of course, Metaltron is unaffected by spell effects. I didn't catch what was tributed for the summon.
Maybe we can, if we look at the graveyard again. So at the correct graveyard would be nice. Here we go. The skill drain was, of course, at the beginning of the match. I don't see any. I think he just tributed monsters. No, is that possible?
I mean, it is technically possible.
He did.
It's likely
It did.
that the
Disciples. Disciples is the last card.
Okay, so
you guys don't see that. Yeah, after Ignis Heat, there's one more card in the graveyard. It's Disciples of the True Draco Kings, Draco Phoenix, and I think that's the card that got tributed together with Monster.
together with two monsters.
Together with two monsters. Yeah, here we go.
Metaltron requiring 3 tributes.
All
but
right.
if the Disciples were tributed, Metaltron would have no boost from the Dragonic Diagram, being unaffected by spell cards.
The token was tributed from the Lost World. Thank you, guys.
So we saw Ignis, the token, and the Disciples being tributed to make Metaltron unaffected by spell and monster effects, leaving his attack at 3,000.
Lose one turn is still active, of course, and negating the effects of negating the special summoned monsters' effects in the turn it was special summoned.
Yes.
So that's gonna make should have a very big impact, right?
It really puts a one. It's like playing other card games with summoning sickness, where the monsters that you play can't do anything the turn that you play them. They need to sit on the board until your next turn comes around.
Right. I mean, we got some heavy hitters like the Ultimate Conductor Tyranno. They won't mind too much. They can still just take a big chomp out of that life point of the opponent. But that's pretty much it. All the other cards are going to be on the back seat, basically.
Yeah, and that is if the Ultimate Conductor can survive the turn.
Yeah. Doesn't look all that likely with that Amano Iwato. And it seems like the players are also confirming now.
There's some discussion as to what the attack of Decode Talker will be after the resolution of True Draco Apocalypse. My understanding is that it will be set to 1/2 of whatever its current value is when the Apocalypse resolves. So on activation, Decode Talker's attack is 3,300, pointing to 2 monsters. Now that its effect is no longer negated by lose one turn, so it will be permanently set to 1,650 at this point.
Right. So suddenly Antonio Fragnelli is in a pretty good spot again.
Yeah, the game is really marching on after some strong comeback plays.
For both of these guys, in fact. Mostly Antonio, though. And now he might be able to just press the advantage and take it home for a possible third duel here.
We see the pickup on another copy of Disciples of the True Draco Phoenix. That will be able to come down, put some resources back into deck for Antonio, and draw a new card. He may be hoping to shuffle back an Ignis Heat and be able to draw it. He hasn't yet used the additional summon of Disciples this turn.
How many options does he have, really? Is it like a one-way street to victory, or does he have some other options?
Well, the True Draco, it will really depend on the card he draws, and with the duality, he gets to pretty much choose which card he draws. He has access now to the Ignis that we just talked about, the one he shuffled back. He can use the additional summon granted by Disciples, putting a lot of pressure onto the board here.
And both of these players have been suffering from the problem that they don't know exactly the interactions between their cards and their opponent's cards. It's still early in the day, but then again, after yesterday, even if you get some sleep, you might not be as rested as you should be.
Yeah, and the players won't have tested this matchup critically.
Yeah, very unlikely. By the way, those two dice, I think they're signaling Spell and Monster.
Oh, okay, yes.
Pretty smart, actually. Yeah, we were actually fearing that we might have lost one of our judges for today. Yesterday evening, Thomas Tuvilo, one of our judges at the table, he said, "Oh, we got all of these dice still. What are we going to do?" And Luke was like, "Yeah, you're responsible for them. Just bring them back tomorrow." And I was like, if we don't see Thomas tomorrow, that is the reason why. He's just going to set off, riding into the sunset with those dice.
Yeah, full set of 7.
That Dimensional Fissure is going to help. Like, just when Severin Frank needs to rebuild, he's going to be under even more pressure and more problems with Dimensional Fissure and lose one turn, both active.
Yeah, after a strong start for Severin, it looks like he doesn't have many options left available to him here. He'll be able to banish one copy of Giant Rex. Well, he could banish 2 for his Ultimate Conductor, but he can only use the effect of Giant Rex once per turn. So even banishing 2, he wouldn't be able to summon them both back. That would give him access to a level 7 Synchro. Would have been nice without the lose one turn.
Yeah.
He could potentially go for a Black Rose Dragon or something similar, but...
A Black Rose Dragon is a lot better when it has an effect.
Yes.
It's a card that is almost exclusively played for its effect.
I'm not sure that continuing to play is the right move for Severin here. He knows that there's not much time left on the clock.
I think he just heard you there. I think he might have just like peeked under that headphones that he has, and is like, oh, I think he's giving me a hint here. This Tom Rose guy is onto something. We need to start playing the third duel.
Yep. So they'll have a few minutes side decking here, and then probably about 9 minutes left on the clock by the time we actually get started on Game 3. That should be plenty to make some good headway. Severin probably in a decent position, able to deal a lot of damage very quickly with the effective Ultimate Conductor. Be interesting to see who he chooses to make the first move in this game.
Yeah. Although, I think he wants to go first. Like, I would be surprised. We've seen this play out to your own disadvantage when you tried to bait your opponent into thinking that you're going to go first and then you let him go first. Even if they just draw the cards that they need to go first, then you're at such a disadvantageous position, even with that 6 card. I would be surprised if he's deciding not to go first.
Whilst we had seen it in the previous round, both decks on the round 9 feature match, the Trickstar Sky Striker and the World Chalice deck, are decks that would typically choose to go first in an open choice situation. Oftentimes the Dinosaur deck is built in a very different way, in that it would naturally want to play second anyway. So he may have built his deck under the assumption that even if he wins the die roll, he would choose to play second in a Game 1 situation.
Interesting. All right. Who's your favorite in that last game?
I really like Dinosaurs, so my favorite is Severin here. I want to see the Dinosaur deck do well. We've seen a lot of True Draco, particularly over the earlier half of this year. I really like the Dinosaur cards, and I want to see them have success.
I also have a feeling it's going to be him. But let's see. Let's see. Maybe Antonio can surprise us all and come back again.
And as we just mentioned, I'm really interested to see who goes first.
Oh, did Severin just say you go first?
Severin told Antonio to play first, which was, as I expected, he will have built his deck choosing second.
Okay. Well, a bit of a surprise there, at least for me. Now, the question is going to be, what is Antonio going to draw into? If he sided in those Mind Crushes, they could be really good now. But unlikely if you expect to go first, I guess.
It's a very strong hand for Antonio.
Right. Right, this is a nice mix of cards for once.
He's going to be drawing at least 2 cards with that Card of Demise.
No, it's way better than that the second duel when he had to play Card of Demise for 1 card.
And we see no hand traps for Severin.
Oh my. Again, he should have gone first. Should have gone first.
We can say that he should have gone first, but I'm not sure if he would have even been able to establish a particularly strong board if he was playing first. So, sure, he's going to have to play into a lot here, but his deck will be designed to play into a lot. He's got the Twin Twisters in hand, so even if there are lots of back rows, he can deal with that.
Okay. So this is going to be him having to prove a point that his deck was designed to do just that, what he's doing now. Certainly not a very advantageous position. Man, so much speed. Imperial Order, I guess. Lose 1 turn. Oof. Talk about a tough choice here.
Whichever one he takes, unless it's the Amano or Wato, it's going to be falling down for the Twin Twisters anyway.
That's a good point.
And knowing that Severin has already failed to activate any hand traps, it's unlikely that the Amano would even be picked.
Also true. So the decision might not be as hard as I thought at first. Although that, I mean, Imperial Order, like, in a vacuum, it's an extremely strong card, obviously. So now Severin is in that interesting position that he knows what his opponent has face down, at least one of the traps.
Was it the Imperial Order or the lose 1 turn that was taken?
It's the lose 1 turn.
Okay, so Severin knows for absolute certain that there is no Imperial Order set to Antonio's side of the field. He can just launch straight in with that Twin Twisters, not being afraid of it getting negated.
Yep, yep. Is that the first move that he should be doing? He doesn't...
He thinks no.
He thinks no, okay.
He may be wanting to save the Twin Twisters, possibly to take out the card that will be brought to the field by the effect of Ignis Heat.
Oh, okay.
So he'll definitely want to take out the lose 1 turn when it gets flipped face up, but it's possible that the second choice destruction for that Twin Twisters isn't the other face down.
Right. Yeah. The interesting choices that you have to make here. And again, it's all about adapting.
So he's activated the Lost World. He'll be going for the Oviraptor normal summon to give his opponent a token, and then the wheels really start turning.
No, Severin is thinking.
The last set card for Antonio, being the True Draco Apocalypse, will enable a destruction of that Lost World before the resolution of Oviraptor's effect. But whether or not Antonio decides that he wants to get rid of that Lost World remains to be seen.
Right. I got a little bit distracted because of that announcement in the background that the giant attack of the giant card is starting, which is a special public event we have today. It's a supersized version of the regular attack of the giant card. I don't even know how many giant cards you can win, but we have 4 more in the public event stage.
So both Ignis Heat activating their effects. I wasn't even aware that they were only once per turn per copy.
Oh, that's a big advantage for Antonio here.
Yeah, there's no hard once per turn on the effect of Ignis Heat, so...
When your opponent... that is a once per turn for when your opponent activates a card or effect while you control this tribute summon monster.
It is once per turn, during either player's turn, but there's no restriction on the name of the card being once per turn. It's just once per copy.
Right. Oh, you meant in that way that
Yes.
you can,
So
okay, sorry.
because he has 2 copies of Ignis
Yeah, of
Heat,
course.
he's able to
Yeah.
use them each once.
Right. That is depending on the exact way that it's worded on the card. But just the short version of once per turn means once per this copy. And if it says something like you can only use the effect of Ignis Heat once per turn, then it affects all the Ignis Heats.
I have a feeling Severin might have perhaps used that Twin Twisters as a slightly inopportune moment. The Lost World here is going to be taken out by Disciples of the True Draco Phoenix before he uses the second effect of his Overraptor.
I think he was trying to go for an advantage where he makes his opponent feel secure, and then he flips the loose one turn and he's like, haha, I got something against that. But it doesn't seem like that's playing out to his advantage, as much to his advantage as he thought it would be. And also looking at the clock, we only have 3.5 minutes remaining here, which so far no life point changes, but that is not gonna last a lot longer here.
Yeah, I feel like if Severin had opted to use his Overraptor effect before that Lost World had been destroyed, he would be in a much stronger position.
Is he gonna be able to resolve something that is gonna wipe the board again, like he did in the first game? Doesn't look that way.
He has the ability
right now.
to do a lot of attacks, but with Dragonic Diagram remaining on the field, the Ignis Heats won't be destroyed by battle.
Right. But they're just gonna flip
Yep.
face down. I mean, that
He
works.
uses the effect of his Ultimate Conductor, destroying Baby Ceratosaurus in hand to put them face down, and whilst they can't be destroyed by battle, they have no protection from being sent to the grave by the effect of that Ultimate Conductor. So Severin going to be pushing for a lot of damage here.
Yeah, and in the end, I think he played that quite masterfully. Before, I wasn't 100% sure if that is the way to victory, but that looks quite good now, all of a sudden.
Yep, so he'll be doing just shy 6,000 damage in this battle phase.
Yeah, he also deals damage with that Ultimate Conductor Tyranno, of course. It just attacks the face-down monsters and gets rid of it, and inflicts 1,000 damage on top of all the other things. So suddenly, Antonio Fragnelli just left with 2,200 life points after the attacks went in.
Yep, and then using those 2 level 4s left on the field, we may see an Volzar Lagia coming down here
Ooh,
to
we haven't
negate
seen
the
that.
draw.
Well, we haven't seen that in a couple of years. So all of a sudden, Antonio Fragnelli is standing with his back against the wall, and there's only 1 more minute or 1.5 minutes remaining in that round. And even if Antonio Fragnelli advances to his main phase, you can't help but wonder, is he going to be able to deal enough damage in his main phase? Or if he's going to be able to advance to his battle phase, can he have such a gigantic swing with just Dragonic Diagram on the field and True Draco Heritage?
Yeah, I don't think that there's any card that Antonio could draw here that's going to be able to break through this.
Okay, that's it for the turn, for the big turn for Severin Frank. And finally, after many years, Lagia is making a comeback. 40 seconds on the clock. Antonio Fragnelli needs to hurry. He is gonna search. Is he onto something here? Is there anything he can search?
Well, I don't think there's anything that he can search with 20 seconds on the clock that's going to deal 6,000 damage.
Yeah, I would be surprised. Antonio seems to disagree so far, at least. He's still hanging in there. But that Lagia is going to make a big difference. And I'm not entirely sure if the judges, maybe they did give a time extension.
Okay.
Probably because in that situation where every second counted, Severin was like, I have to read this card now, I have to read that card now. And while it didn't appear like obvious stalling, which of course is a part of cheating and that would lead to a disqualification, the judges were like, okay, if you suddenly have to read all the cards, we're going to give a bit of a time extension. So Antonio can also still have a shot at this at least. But now he's giving up his special summon for the turn with that Port of Duality.
Is that a card of demise revealed? The Ignis Heat is taken.
And we have roughly 3 more minutes in the round. I think that was the correct decision by the judges.
So Fragnelli picking up emergency provisions, that's not going to be enough here.
No, especially with like 1 card that he can send away for it. Still, he needs that big swing. We're talking about 5,800 life points.
I'm surprised if we won't see the effect of Lagia to negate that summon.
There is the Lagia to do just that. So that is it. A handshake, and that's all she wrote at the end of the day. Severin Frank with Dinosaurs representing them well. Almost a lockup for the top 64 now. He was already on 40-something place. Just won that match. Even if he loses the last one with his tiebreakers that are looking quite nicely, we might be seeing Dinosaurs in the top 64 of the European Championship.
He may have a chance regardless of the outcome, but he still needs to fight to win this match because sometimes tiebreakers just aren't there for you.
You want to go there in the top 64 with all the momentum if possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And even if he would make it through on an 8-3 record potentially, he might even want to fight for that seeding, being in the higher half of the bracket to get potentially the lower draw entrance to the top 64.
That is true. Before we take you guys back to Matt and Luke, let's take a very quick look at the standings. This is prior to this round. We can bring those up for you guys. There you can see this is what it looked like prior to this round. We only have 2 undefeated players. After this round, we only have 1 undefeated player. Jake Quincy on a win streak again. Some players on Facebook already told him, hey, you should really make sure that you're going to lose one of those matches in the last few rounds before you get into the top 64 and then get knocked out. Yeah, Christopher Nielsen was dealt 1 loss. He looked like he was on a mission yesterday. So those are the top few tables here.
I think that's just 1 draw for Christopher Nielsen. So the players in positions 3 through 5 standing with 8 wins, 1 draw and no losses.
Of course, yeah. And then we see 2 Greek players representing that country well. If we look a little bit further down, we see Luke Parks, who I think he lost to Jake Quincy just the round before. That was his first loss. George Schmidt, of course, Robin Bach, Ofner Tom Payne, Sebastian Moser, Austrian national champion, I think 2017, maybe 16. So a lot of high-profile players, a lot of names that ring a bell, for me at least. So it looks like it's shaping up like a very nice and prestigious top 64. Let's talk about, not about the top 64, but about that match with Luke and Matt. Let's take you over there to those 2 guys.
Hello and welcome back to us. Sorry, there was a delay.
What on earth was that? It's like, come back to us?
The tech team were coming back to us, and then he kind of went, so I didn't know whether we were coming back to us or not. But
Hello,
I think
everyone. We are here.
We are here. We have got something quite special lined up for you guys for the next feature match. So sorry to skip on the last one, but we have the top 4 of the Dragon Duel European Championship coming up next.
So this is to decide who goes to Worlds to represent Europe for the Dragon Duel competition.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
The feature match we'll have for you guys is Kai Heidinger. Is that right?
Heidinger, I think, yeah.
He's going to be piloting the Trickster Mech Knight deck against Matteo Milano, who's going to be playing Sky Striker Trickstar. Because I remember Alyssa Milano. That's the only reason I got the name right.
Yeah?
I like Charmed, what can I say?
Oh, I thought that like the Milano from Guardians of the Galaxy.
I could have went with anything cooler than Charmed, but here we are.
I went with the Milano from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Okay, well, there you go.
Star-Lord's ship. It's called the Milano.
I didn't know that.
Did you know it's the Orange Milano? He refers to that when they're breaking out of the prison thing.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. Anyway, so we were meant to cut it short, but we started talking about random stuff. We're going to be right back with our Dragon Duel top 4 to see which one of those guys are going to be going to Tokyo for the World Championships. See you guys soon.